This video is on three-dimensional figures. At the end of the video, we'll also start finding the volume of rectangular prisms. Three-dimensional figures are usually either prisms or pyramids. A prism has two bases, a top and a bottom. This figure is a rectangular prism. It has two bases, both are rectangles. This is a triangular prism. It has two bases, both are triangles. This is a circular prism. It has two bases, both are circles, also known as a cylinder. A pyramid has one base and a point. This is a rectangular pyramid. It has a rectangular base and a point. This is a circular pyramid. It has a circular base and a point, also known as a cone. And this is a triangular pyramid. It has a triangular base and a point. And the other kind of three-dimensional figure we will study is a sphere. A sphere is just a ball. So let's look at some three-dimensional figures. Here are some prisms. All of these have two bases. This first one is a triangular prism. It has a triangular base, and if you turn it over, it has a triangular top. This is a rectangular prism. You could call it a square prism because the base is actually a square, and the other side is a square. But a square is a type of rectangle, so that's a rectangular prism. And this is a circular prism. It has a circle on the top, a circle on the bottom, also known as a cylinder. This is a rectangular prism, has a rectangle on the top, a rectangle on the bottom. And this cube is a type of rectangular prism, has a square bottom, square top, type of rectangular prism. Pyramids, on the other hand, they have a base and a point. This is a rectangular pyramid, has a rectangular or actually square base and a point. This is a triangular pyramid, has a triangular base and a point. This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pentagonal pyramid, has a pentagonal base and a point. And this is a circular pyramid, has a circular base and a point, also known as a cone. And the other type of figure that we'll study is a sphere. A sphere is like the globe, perfectly round. What do you think a half a sphere is called? A half a sphere is called a hemisphere. The globe is separated into the northern hemisphere above the equator and the southern hemisphere below the equator. So a half of a circle is a hemisphere. I'm sorry, a half of a sphere is a hemisphere. A half of a circle is a semicircle. Next, we need to talk about the parts of prisms and pyramids. There are three things we need to know about. One is the faces. Faces are kind of the sides. This prism has four rectangular faces, a square face, and another square face for a total of 6 faces. You might want to call faces sides, but they're going to be called faces. This triangular prism has a triangular face here, a triangular face here, and 1, 2, 3 rectangular faces for a total of 5 faces. This triangular pyramid has a triangle for a base and 1, 2, 3 more triangles on the sides for a total of 4 faces. All are triangular. This rectangular pyramid has 5 faces. 1, 2, 3, 4 triangles plus the rectangular base. So 5 total faces, 4 triangles plus a rectangle. This one has 4 faces. All of them are triangles. This one has 5 faces, 2 triangles and 3 rectangles. And a rectangular prism has 6 faces. 1, 2, 3, 4 around the sides, a top and a bottom, 6 total faces. The next thing we need to talk about are edges. How many edges does it have? All rectangular prisms have 12 edges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. and then 9, 10, 11, 12. 4 edges on this base, 4 edges on this base, and then 4 edges around it. Rectangular prism, 12 edges. A triangular prism has 9 edges. 1, 2, 3 on this base, 1, 2, 3 on the other base, and then you'll have 1, 2, 3 on the side faces. This triangular pyramid has 6 edges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 total edges. And this rectangular pyramid has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 edges. All rectangular prisms will have 4, 8, 12 edges. All rectangular pyramids will have 4, 8 edges. All triangular prisms have 3, 6, 9 edges. And all triangular pyramids will have 3, 6 edges. And the third thing we need to know is about vertices. One point is a vertex. More than one point are called vertices. Rectangular prisms have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 vertices. Triangular prisms have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vertices. Rectangular pyramids have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vertices. And triangular pyramids have 1, 2, 3, 4 vertices. This is a pentagonal pyramid. The pentagonal pyramid has 6 faces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 triangles and the pentagon base for a total of 6 faces. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a total of 10 edges. 6 faces, 10 edges, and it has 6 vertices. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the bottom, plus a 6th on the top, 6 vertices. When you're doing a problem and it asks for the faces, the edges, and the vertices, you don't necessarily have to memorize that all rectangular prisms have 12 edges, 6 faces, and 8 vertices. You can just count them. Faces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The edges, you can count 4 plus 4 more plus 4 more is 8. And the vertices, the edges are going to be 12. 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 12. And the vertices, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You just count the points and that tells you how many vertices you have. You just need to know faces are all the sides, kind of. Edges are all the edges. And vertices are all the points. So one more time in review. Prisms have 2 bases, a top and a bottom. Pyramids have 1 base and a point. This is a rectangular prism. This is a triangular prism. This is a circular prism, also known as a cylinder. This is a rectangular pyramid, a circular pyramid, also known as a cone, and a triangular pyramid. And a sphere is a ball or a globe. All of these except the sphere and the cylinder and the cone you won't have to do. But on the triangular and the rectangular prisms and pyramids, you need to be able to count the faces, the edges, and the vertices. Vertices are the points. Three-dimensional figures are called three-dimensional because there are 3 dimensions to measure their volume. So from right here to right here is 1 dimension. That is the length from this point, this vertex, to this vertex. Let's call it 2 inches. 1 dimension, 2 inches. If I want the area of my base, this purple part, then it's 2-dimensional. Length times width, or base times height. Length is 2 inches times base is 2 inches. That gives you an area of the base of 4 inches. That is a two-dimensional measurement. Your answer would be in units squared, units to the second power. In order to get volume, which is how much this cylinder would hold if I filled it up with sand or rice or water, you have a third dimension. Not only do you have length times width, but you also multiply that times height or depth of the prism, how far it is between the two bases. So area is length times width. Volume is the area of the base times the height or depth of the prism, which ends up being length times width times height, 3 dimensions. Here we have a circular prism. Just like this rectangular prism, you get the area of the base and multiply it by the height or depth of the prism. You do the same thing on the circular prism. You get the area of the base, pi r squared, times the height or depth of the prism. The height of the prism is the distance between the two circular bases on this one. On this triangular prism, we're going to find the volume the same way. The area of the base, which in this case will be half the base times the height, or half the length times the width, and then times the third dimension, the height or depth of the prism, the distance between the two triangles. We'll find the volume of several of these objects, but on this video, we're only going to do rectangular prisms. So let's do a few. So the formula for the volume of any prism is big BH. Big BH is the formula for the volume of any prism. Lowercase b stands for base or length or width, but uppercase B stands for the area of the base. So on a rectangular prism, big B is length times width. That's how you get the area of a triangle, of a rectangle, length times width. So big B on a rectangular prism is just length times width, and then you multiply that by the third dimension, the height or depth of the prism. Now, if this were a triangular prism, big B would be half the base times the height. If it were a circular prism, big B would be pi r squared. If it were some other shape, big B would be however you find the area of that base. So I start with my formula. Volume of a prism is the area of the base, big B, times the height of the prism. On this one, length times width, area of my base, 3 times 2 is 6. I multiply that by the height or depth of the prism, 5, and I get the volume, which is 30 cubic inches. Three-dimensional measurements are measured to the third power, units to the third power, or cubic. That's last dimension, height, is the distance between my two rectangular bases. Let's look at another example. Here's another rectangular prism. I have two rectangular bases. The length and width of my rectangular base is 2 and 4. Big B is going to be length times width. That's how I get the area of a rectangle. My length and width are 2 and 4. So I plug those in. 4 times 2 is 8. So the area of my base is 8. To get the volume, it's one more multiplication. You multiply it times the height or depth of the prism, the distance between the two rectangular bases. So in this case, my area is 8 of the base times the height of the prism, 6, and I get volume, which is 48 cubic inches. Big BH becomes LWH on rectangular prisms. It's 3 measurements, length times width times height. Try number 3. I've got the formula started for you. Volume of a prism is big BH, where big B is the area of the base. All of these are rectangular prisms, so big B is going to be length times width on all of them. So plug in the length, width, and height and find the volume of this rectangular prism, and make sure to write your answer in units cubed. The length and the width of the base is 3 and 5. The height or depth of the prism, the distance between the two bases, is 10. 5 times 3 gives me a base area of 15, and 15 times the height of the prism gives me a volume of 150 cubic units. I'm just pretending all of these are inches. Try number 4, another rectangular prism. Plug in the length and width and the height and find the volume of the rectangular prism. Your length and width of the base are both 2. 2 times 2 will give you 4. And then 4 times 5 is 20 cubic units. Now you could just say 2 times 2 times 5 in your head or your calculator and get 20 and skip this. But I just kind of like to know or show that I know the area of my base is 4 times the height of 5 gives me a volume of 20 cubic inches. Try number 5. Find the volume of this rectangular prism. Can do it in my head. 3 times 3 gives me an area of 9. 9 times 5 gives me a volume of 45. Here you see where I plug it in. 3 is my length and width of my base, which gives me an area of the base of 9. And then times the third dimension, the height of the prism, you get 45 cubic inches. Last one, try to find the volume of this cube, which is a type of rectangular prism. So I can use the rectangular prism formula, big BH, big B becomes length times width. Every measurement is 5. 5 times 5 gives me an area of 25 for my base, and then times 5, the height of my prism. My answer is the volume is 125 cubic units. You can use the same formula for a rectangular prism and a cube, but there's also a second formula for a cube. The volume of a cube is a side cube. All edges on this cube, all 12 edges, all measure 5. So you can just take one of those edges or one of those sides and cube it. 5 times 5 times 5, or 5 cubed, is 125 cubic units. So to get the volume of a rectangular prism, it's big BH. Big B is the area of the base. Once you get the area of the base, in this case, length times width, multiply it by the height or depth of the prism. Length times width times height. Thank you.